Going live. And we're live apparently. Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Thanks very much for joining me. I'm Doc Sloan, and welcome to my science fiction station, where this week we're hosting our Dune Club. And we've hit chapter 41 this week, where we get to look a little bit at Sietch life. Excuse me. Life for the women of the Fremen. Some of the rituals and customs, etc. And of course, we get, I suppose, a couple of little stories within. You'll have to excuse me, by the way, for those of you who are joining me tonight. I'm very wheezy tonight, so I'm going to keep sipping fluids, and hopefully that something will sort itself out as I talk. Or maybe one good cough will sort it out. So excuse me for the moment, and hopefully it will pass. But as some of you may know, I've actually been away on holiday, and I've been, I suppose, where it's been a little bit Baltic, and since I've come home, I sort of noticed the air pressure, and the coldness of the air. Excuse me. So it's possible I might have a wee chest infection or something, but we're in the middle of a very, very bad cold snap here at the minute. And actually, when we came home from holiday, we discovered that we have a gauge for our oil heating, and we thought we had half a tank of oil, and we discovered that the gauge is broke. So it turns out we had no oil, and we had the biggest cold snap, I think, in about 12 years here, and we've had no heating for 3 days. So again, apologies. We've got heating now, as you can see. And I'm hoping just as I sort of get my flow going, the throat will sort itself out. But I'm very wheezy at the moment. So I'll probably keep sipping a wee bit here as I go, and try to make it not sound too easy. So if you're out there and you're joining me, thanks very much for joining me, and say hello and say hi, any comments in the chat comments, etc. And as I said, we're heading towards the end of the book now. This is chapter 41, so we have chapters 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48 to go, and essentially what is a prologue, which would be appendix 1, which is actually an epilogue at the end of the book as well. So just to be thorough, we'll be including that, and we'll be including the other appendices as well. So, but we should be done in about 10 more of these, I suppose, episodes, I think, There's Cynthia saying, evening, Doc, evening, Cynthia. As I said, hopefully the old chest and throat sort themselves out tonight. Excuse me. I think they're getting a bit better. It's one of those things where I'm fine for a bit, and then I step outside into the backyard, which is very, very treacherous at the minute, and then sort of feel like your back's pushed forward, your chest is lifted, and you start getting a bit wheezy, But I think it's one of those things. Just sort of started up when we got home from holiday. So there we go. But thank you very much for joining us. Yeah. It's an interesting chapter, this one. Really focusing around a little trio of Jessica, Alia, and Harah. And I suppose in this chapter we'll get a few terms mentioned for the first time. And a little bit about, I suppose, the almost inter-family dynamic between excuse me, Jessica, Alia, Harah, who would be part of Paul's household, who lives with Paul as a servant but not as a wife. And I suppose that the action in this chapter goes on simultaneously from what was happening in the previous chapter, which kind of left us on a cliffhanger with Paul about to go out and summon the worm. So we'll see that this is kind of lining up with this. And some of the events, I suppose, from the previous chapter where we've had Paul exploring his sense of the past, the present, the future, and his dislocation from the now, if you like. Some of that, I suppose, we get to see here. As such, this is Alia and his mother in the south with Harah. Excuse me, I'm going to take another wee sip. Apologies. There we go. So I hope you are all keeping well wherever you are. The weather here has gone to extreme cold, and we've been down as low as -9 in some parts of Northern Ireland. So I'm not wondering what it's like where you guys are at tonight. Yeah, we've got all sorts going on in here, and it's pretty much within this as well. I suppose within this chapter, we get another lovely little nod to coffee, but we have two kind of almost mini stories within it. One would be, or I suppose, a recollection of the raids undertaken against the Fremen when they lived on Bela Teguese. But we also get Alia's story, sort of Alia's point of view here, as told to Harah. And there's a few things that I suppose, a few questions that pop up in this chapter as well, which I wonder what you think about. And I'll sort of point them out as we encounter them. So our epigraph to start with, I think my throat's feeling a bit better now. Let's have a wee look at it. Epigraph number 41 is to do with the control the coinage and the courts. Let the rabble have the rest. Thus the Padishah Emperor advises you, and he tells you, if you want profits, you must rule. There is truth in these words, but I ask myself, who are the rabble and who are the ruled? We're told that this is from Muad'Dib's secret message to the Landsraad, from Arrakis awakening by the Princess Irulan. So the contents of this epigraph, I suppose, historically are representing something, a political move in the background by Paul, secret messages, etc., to the Landsraad. And I suppose the point he's making is, if you want profits, you must rule. But this is the emperor. This is what the emperor tells you. Control coinage and courts. Let the rebel have the rest. Now I've made a wee note next to that. That would be bread and circuses, wouldn't it? Excuse me. There is truth in these words, but I ask myself, who are the rabble and who are the ruled? And I think that's the interesting part of this quotation. And within this chapter, I think most importantly, we need to think about this when we look at Jessica. At the end of this chapter, Jessica's behaviours, I don't know how to put it. Well, from my point of view, it'd be a bit off kilter. I think Jessica makes a mistake in this chapter, and I think there's I suppose, how we put it, a viewpoint of Harah that Alia gets, but Jessica doesn't. But I think in particular that this, who are the rabble and who are the ruled, I think this, whenever we get to the end of this chapter, I think that's the time to have a wee look at that and consider Jessica and her thoughts and words. So that's what we begin with, I suppose, is that a thought came unbidden to Jessica's mind. We're told that Paul will be undergoing his Sardaukar, sorry, not his Sardaukar, it's my handwriting, his Sandrider test at any moment now. They try to conceal this fact from me, but it's obvious. And Chani has gone on some mysterious errand. And I've written next to this, well, this must be not so obvious because we know she's with Paul. And Jessica does not, I suppose. Is that the interesting thing there? And we've got a sense of our time. Paul will be undergoing his Sandrider test at any moment now. So this is lining us up with parallel to the action in the previous chapter, if you like. Excuse me. So we get time, then we get location. We're told that she sat in her resting chamber, taking a moment of quiet between the night's classes. We have to remember that night is treated as day within a Fremen siege. It's a pleasant chamber, but we're told it's not as large as the one at Sietch Tabar. Not as large as the one that she had enjoyed in Sietch Tabar. I think there's part of Jessica enjoys the trappings of power in this, I suppose. And we're told that this is before their flight from the pogrom. Still, there's thick rugs on the floor, soft cushions, a low coffee table near at hand, and multicoloured hangings on walls. Excuse me, soft yellow glow globes overhead, and the room is permeated by a distinctive furry odour of a Fremen siege that she had come to associate with a sense of security. Hmm. So we're getting a little bit of a sense of where she's at the minute. Um, and that her quarters aren't quite as big as the ones that were in Sietch Tabar, that they're on the run. This is before their flight from the pogrom that the Sardaukar have put in place. And still, I suppose the trappings of comfort, etc., are things as simple here as rugs and cushions, a small coffee table, this kind of thing. I like the way Herbert describes the smell of the Sietch, I suppose, a furry odour of a Fremen Sietch. I was wondering what he meant by that. I kind of got the sense of wet dog, that kind of thing. Pardon me. So Jessica's feelings are that she knew she'd never overcome the feeling of being in an alien place. That was the harshness that the rugs and the hangings attempted to conceal in particular. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. It's interesting how Jessica feels about Arrakis, etc. Previously, we've had it's like a hell world, a hell hole, this kind of thing. But she's presenting an absolute here, I suppose. Let me see. She knew she would never overcome a feeling of being in an alien place. Pardon me. This isn't going to be good if I keep wheezing every 2 minutes, folks. Bear with me, so I'm going to get a wee drop of honey and see if that helps. Hang on. All right, Holly Dolly. Give a wee swig of honey and see if that helps. And as always, it's having to do so much talking. Hang on a wee second. There we go. La 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 la. There we go. Hopefully that will help a wee bit. There's Telios Does saying, "Evening, Doc. I too am fighting off bronchitis. Keep taking in the liquids. It keeps the phlegm thin and easier to cough up." I don't. Thank you, Babs. Nice. Thanks for joining us. I don't feel that bad at all. It's just, as I said, it's the difference, I suppose, in the inside house and the outside air. I nipped out the back just before coming in, and just start wheezing. But I'll take that advice. I'll try keeping up with the fluids. I'll try and keep lubricating the throat. It's a weird one. Excuse me. And I've been taking my medicine and all. Right. Smells of the Fremen Sietch. Yeah, she knew she'd never overcome feeling of being in an alien place. And it was the harshness that the rugs and hangings attempted to conceal. So, simply put, I suppose, an awareness of what's behind them. I don't know. I think that's quite it's an interesting thing because it's an absolute from Jessica's point of view, I suppose. But I get the sense that the Fremen could make anywhere homely, if you see what I mean, with their rugs and hangings and glow globes and cushions, etc., and coffee sets. It's just that's what I get a sense of from it. So we're told that the sounds, there's a faint tinkling, drumming, slapping. Sorry, hang on. A faint tinkling, drumming, slapping penetrated to the resting chamber. And we're told that Jessica knew it for a birth celebration. So normally I've got wee skulls and things, and every time somebody dies in this, it's not often we get a birth. So I went with a wee notable birth baby. There we go. Got a wee icon for it. And this, of course, is going to be Sube's boy, who looks like the son of Mitha, as we'll find out. Excuse me. Yes, indeed. So Jessica, she, we're told, knew this for a birth celebration, probably Sube's, as her time was near. And Jessica knew that she'd see the baby soon enough. A blue-eyed cherub, we're told, brought to the Reverend Mother for a blessing. She knew also that her daughter Alia would be at the celebration and report on it. And that's an interesting phrase, and I suppose we'll kind of, it'll match up with Jessica and Alia later. Now, in terms of the time at this point, we're told it's not yet time for the nightly prayer of parting. They wouldn't have started a birth celebration near the time of ceremony that mourned the slave raids of Poritrin, Bela Teguese, Rossock, and Harmonthep. So this is a nightly ritual that occurs within the Fremen culture. And they we're told that this, I suppose, this celebration music wouldn't be played so close to the time of that ritual. It's not yet time for the nightly prayer of parting, as it's called. No, but they wouldn't start a birth celebration near the time of ceremony that mourned the slave raids of Poritrin, Bela Teguese, Rossock, and Harmonthep. So these are all places on the Fremen migration list, if you like, the different worlds that they've been on. And we're going to see a little bit about an example of how they, I suppose, how they commemorate these events from their history. And if we're thinking about this, they're incorporating this into their daily life. This is a nightly life, if you like, to get that inversion correctly. So it's a nightly prayer. So we're told, let's see, Jessica sighed. She knew she was trying to keep the thoughts off of Paul and the dangers that he faced. And what I think is quite funny here is we get a whole raft of them presented here. Pit traps with poisoned barbs, Harkonnen raids, which we're told are growing fear as Fremen took their toll on aircraft and raiders. With the new weapons that Paul had given them, there's a natural dangers of the desert, for example, as well, which include makers, thirst, dust chasms. So I think it's quite a funny wee. She's trying to keep her thoughts off all of these dangers, and just basically we get a nice big list of them, which clearly indicate where her thoughts are. Now, what's quite kind of interesting here is we're told that she thought of calling for coffee, and with that thought came an ever-present awareness of paradox in the Fremen way of life. And here is that paradox, if you like. That's what I've got. So it's the paradoxical, I suppose, nature of how well they lived in these Sietch caverns compared to the Graben peons, yet how much more they endured in open hager of the desert than anything the Harkonnen bondsmen endured. So that's the paradox of Fremen life, the Fremen way of life here in the Sietches, is that the way they live in these Sietches, compared to those of the Graben peons. Now, peons, a term here from the terminology of the Imperium, just to let you know, is what we're told is a planet-bound peasants or labourers. One of the base classes under the Fauferlikes, and legally is a term which means wards of the planet. So the difference between the way that the Fremen live in these caverns compared to, say, those that live under Harkonnen yoke that are bound to the planet, etc., legally, but how much more yet they endured in open hadra of the desert than anything the Harkonnen bondsmen endured. So simply put, that their life is much more freer, um, etc., etc. But I suppose by comparison, infinitely more dangerous, I think, is the thing that we get there. And the Hadra in this case is a desert journey or a migration, we're told. Hmm. Cynthia says the time difference between Jessica and Paul echoes the stark difference in their ability to feel at home on Dune. Paul begins the warm ride at dawn any minute now, and Jessica is seeing night coming on. Hmm. Excuse me. Hmm. There's yeah, this I think these three chapters run together quite nicely, Cynthia. Um, Echoes the stark difference in their ability to feel at home on Dune, whereas Paul is as you say in this, he begins the warm ride at dawn any minute now. Is seeing night coming on. He's ready for it as well. He's accepted. Um, he's accepting, the Fremen and their way of life and their culture. Jessica's responses are always kind of, "I'll never," like the absolute here. And we have, I suppose, it's a good point, an inversion of day and night, where Paul begins his warm ride at dawn. Hmm. I think we're going to see something, a kind of dislocation here for Jessica, um, at the end of this chapter, which possibly highlights what you're saying, I think, and the difference in their ability to feel at home on June, but I suppose possibly also maybe the difference in how they look at command. I'm not sure. Um, I find myself not liking Jessica very much at the end of this chapter. Excuse me, if you know what I mean. By the way, Bob, sorry, I hope you're feeling much better. I hope you're doing well with the bronchitis. I hope it was very rude of me not to say such a thing. Unless I didn't, I forgot. But I hope you're feeling much better, Babs. Excuse me. I see Cynthia's point. Paul stays on Arrakis as Jessica runs back to Caladan with Gurney. Hmm. I wonder, is it because Arrakis will always be a reminder to her of Leto's death, that it'll always represent an end to that way of life that they had on Castle Caladan, I suppose. Excuse me. Whereas it was Paul who was so looking forward to it. A new life, adventure, this kind of thing. I'm going to pause a wee second, folks. I'll be right back. Hello. Goodness gracious, yeah. Sorry about that, folks. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, that's better. A wee bit, I think. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, it's a very funny one, isn't it? I think this wee wheezy thing, it just comes and goes. Let's see. Paul finds at home, whereas Jessica still sees Caladan as the home to go back to. Excuse me. Sorry for this old cough, folks. Yes, indeed. And it's interesting, I suppose, that she does end up back there. Ultimately. And yeah, considering that, I suppose, in terms of separating from Alia, I think it's an interesting thing as well. Cynthia says there might be another facet here too. Paul has this intimate contact with Sand and Worm to become a man. Jessica's experience with the earlier lives of the Reverend Mothers might make her an eternal nomad. I suppose she's separated in another way as well, but also in a similar way to Ali, I suppose. But they won't partake. They won't participate in that sense. Excuse me, in the Sietch orgies, which create this kind of. We're going to talk about it shortly, aren't we? I suppose. Hi, it's I think we talk about it when the coffee arrives, don't we? But I think it's something to do with the Tao, the oneness of the Sietch, I think is what I'm thinking on. And I think whenever we get to it, it's described as like a compensation for the effects of the poison and the subtle poison, isn't it? Yeah. And that it gives the Fremen something. I don't think we're too far off that, I think, whatever it is. Excuse me. Whenever we get to it, we can have a wee look at it. I think there's a sense of isolation for Jessica in this. And yeah, it makes sense why she would want to go back, I think, in that sense. I still wonder the question of where does Jessica call home? Is it Wallach 9? Is it the Bene Gesserit planet? Why is it Caladan? Chaya Rivka saying, Shalom all. Shalom, Chaya. Thanks very much for joining us. I've been coughing my guts up for the first half of this program. Tiliel saying, howdy, Chaya. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you're keeping well. It's cold here at the minute. Very icy, very treacherous. It's so icy you couldn't walk the dogs here at the minute. Excuse me, and they're not enjoying me for it at all. So there we go. So, and within that little mention, the paradoxical way of life for the Fremen, how well they live in the Sietches compared to the Graben peons, but how much more they endured in open Hadra, these desert migrations of desert, than anything that the Harkonnen bondsmen endured. And we get another little bit of insight into the Firefly-like system here, because we're told about peons here, which are planet-bound peasants or labourers. So they'll never leave their homeworld, if you like. And there's no movement of class no movement really within the Firefly's system. So we're told it's one of the base classes, whatever that means. And obviously there's more than one. Under the Firefly's legally wards of the planet. So a ward would suggest protection, wouldn't it, in a way, that they're protected by the planet legally. But it sounds like they're just bound. It sounds like slavery. Or what would you call it? Indentured servitude, that kind of thing. But they can't leave their planet. So this is the paradox as Jessica sees it. And this is to do with her thoughts of calling for coffee, by the way. This is the thing that arrives with that thought. And I suppose what we're talking in a funny kind of a way is, I suppose, the difference in the free Fremen I suppose, thinking about the word Fremen, and the planet-bound peasants. Um, their life is much, much better, but much, much more dangerous. That's the way it's viewed here. But because, as we're told, here we go, a dark hand inserted itself through the hangings beside her, deposited a cup upon the table, and withdrew. It's a bit Adam's Family, isn't it? From the cup arose the aroma of spiced coffee. Coffee. Which was an offering from the birth celebration. Jessica, she took the coffee, sipped it, smiling at herself, and asked herself this: in what other society of our universe could a person of my station accept an anonymous drink and quaff that drink without fear? I could alter any poison now before it did me harm, of course, but the donor doesn't realize this. My answer to that question is that a Bene Gesserit society is a good answer to that question. Or certainly, a bunch of Reverend Mothers wouldn't have to worry about it too much. I suppose the key words to point out there, as a person of my station, there we go. And I think that, again, just building up on a picture of what Jessica's like in this chapter. I'd love to know your thoughts on what you think of Jessica at the end of this chapter. That'd be interesting. Do you look at her? How positively do you look at her, I suppose? It would be interesting. She drained the cup, feeling the energy and lift of its contents hot and delicious. And we get some more of her thoughts here on Fremen society. She wondered what other society would have such natural regard for her privacy and comfort. Let's see. The giver intrudes only enough to deposit the gift with only a slight tinge of fear. And I wondered a bit about that. So we have, I suppose, much later on, a statement about the givers and the takers. Excuse me, which I think is in. I don't know. I don't think it's in Dune, actually. The regard for her privacy and comfort. The giver intrudes only just enough to deposit the gift with only a slight tinge of fear. And that's the bit that I wonder about. Is this fear cultivated? Just enough fear, that kind of thing. We see a little bit of that with Paul and Harah at the beginning, whenever they arrive on the Sietch, don't we? I think. Excuse me. Pardon me. There's Matt S. saying, hi, Doc. Hi, everyone. Hi, Matt. Thanks very much for joining us. Terry saying, hi, howdy, Matt. Matt is it? Happy holidays, all. And Terry saying, back at you, Matt. Yes, happy holidays to all of you folks out there. I still have, by the way, a wee bit of correspondence to catch up. So for those of you who sent me messages, just because I was on holidays, etc., I haven't got around to it yet, and I do apologise, but I'll get at it quite soon. So as always, I'll catch up with that quite soon, hopefully, in case some of you have sent me a few messages, etc., and I haven't got back to you yet, folks. Yeah, the holidays are nearly here, aren't they? That time of year. Pardon me. Tinge of fear. I've called this wee bit Jessica and the Rabble and the Tower of the Fremen. Another element of the incident forced itself into her awareness. She had thought of coffee, and it had appeared. And we're told there's no telepathy here. She knew. I suppose we talk a wee bit about ESP and all of these kind of things with Frank Herbert and the science fiction all the time. But here's a little sort of statement. No, there's no telepathy here. She knew. It was the Tao, the oneness of the Sietch community. Excuse me. And this is what she thinks here. It's a compensation from the subtle poison of the spice diet they shared. The great mass of the people could never hope to attain the enlightenment the spice seed brought to her. Another absolute there, could never hope. They had not been trained and prepared for it. Their minds rejected what they could not understand or encompass. Still, they felt and reacted sometimes like a single organism. Excuse me. Now, just and we're also told, and the thought of coincidence never entered their minds. So there is something I find. I've put at the top of this page. This is Jessica and the rabble. Though it's Jessica and the Fremen, really. And I've called this wee sections about the Tao of the Fremen. Control the coinage in the courts, let the rabble have the rest. Who are the rabble and who are the ruled? This is the thing I want to keep considering in this chapter. Jessica is certainly a person of her station, etc., views herself as a person who should rule in this. And I suppose everybody else, apart from Paul and possibly Alia, maybe Stilgar, as well, no, yeah, I'd say that's it. Paul and Alia, everyone else is as to be ruled, to be used, to be manipulated. Excuse me. And the thought of coincidence never entered their heads. What a coincidence. They felt and reacted sometimes like a single organism, and what a coincidence that this is a compensation from the subtle poison of the spice diet they shared. It sounds like there's hidden knowledge there, doesn't it? The thought of coincidence never entered their minds. Wonder what we mean by that. It's an interesting point, isn't it? She thinks I fancy a cup of coffee, and a Fremen just happens to have a hand just sticks its way through her hangings of her apartment and puts a cup of coffee down. And nobody thinks it's is that what we think? Nobody thinks it's a coincidence. That never enters their mind. It's not telepathy, but it's I suppose the way it's presented is it's some kind of hangover from the sharing of the transmutation of the water of life, which is then passed out amongst the Sietch, and then I suppose they engage in the orgy, don't they? So her thoughts here go: has Paul passed his test on the sand? He's capable, but this is important. Accident can strike down the most capable. But waiting, it's the dreariness, we're told. You can wait just so long, then the dreariness of the waiting overcomes you. This was all manner of waiting in their lives. Excuse me, folks. Let's try a bit of honey again. Let's see if that helps. There was all manner of waiting in their lives, and here we get a wee bit of an example of this. More than 2 years we've been here. Twice that number, at least ago, before we can hope to think of trying to wrest Arrakis from the Harkonnen governor. So at least 4 years, they reckon, by Jessica's reckoning, to go here. The Modir Naya, the demon ruler, the beast Raban. I've put C. Caladan Behail in here. Let's have a wee look. Let's see. Oh, come on. Goodness, the web's a bit slow tonight. Let's see. Oh, there we go. You're not yet. Let's have a look. Number of references here in this chapter. Fremen name for the beast Raban name is often translated as demon ruler. The term Mudir in modern Arabic means manager and is possibly derived from Turkish, and Nahia means district or place. The term is still in use verbatim in modern Iraq. There we go. That's from Khaled Bahildon's website. Excuse me. That looks at Arabic and Islamic themes in Frank Herbert's Dune. So a few different Arabic and linguistic references in this chapter. So, her thoughts are interrupted over here. This is going to be Harah. Reverend Mother. We're told it's a voice from outside the hangings at her door. It's Harah's, the other woman in Paul's menage, or household, if you like. Yes, Harah, says Jessica. And we're told that the hangings parted and Harah seemed to glide through them like that. We're told that she wore Sietch sandals, red-yellow wraparound that exposed her arms almost to the shoulders, black hair parted in the middle, swept back like the wings of an insect. Excuse me, flat and oily against her head. She had jutting predatory features drawn into an intense frown. Oh, goodness. I could do with a throat transplant. Now, here we get Alia as well. Behind Harah came Alia, a girl child of about 2 years old. Excuse me. And seeing her daughter, Jessica is caught, as she is frequently, by Alia's resemblance to Paul at that age. We're told that she's got the same wide-eyed solemnity to her questing look, dark hair, firmness of mouth. Pardon me, but there are subtle differences too. And these that most adults found Alia disquieting. So the child, we're told, is little more than a toddler and carried herself with calmness and awareness beyond her years. Adults would be shocked to find her laughing at subtle plays of words between the sexes or catch themselves listening to her half-lisping voice. Excuse me. We're told which is still blurred by an unformed soft palate. They discovered her words sly remarks that could only be based on experiences no 2-year-old ever encountered. Harah sank to a cushion, with an exasperated sigh, and frowns at Alia. Right, bear with me a second, folks. When I brought my beer in, but forgot to bring a bottle opener. I'll be right back. There we go. That's better. Yeah, it's nice to get away on holiday, by the way. I was away for 5 days and I was away to Amsterdam. I had a very, very nice time doing absolutely nothing. It's very cold. And quite a bit grim. It's nice there this time of year. It's not too busy. Right. Oh, okay. So Alia, Jessica motioned to her daughter, and we're told that the child crossed to a cushion beside her mother and clasped Jessica's hand. The contact of flesh restored that mutual awareness they had shared since before Alia's birth. It wasn't a matter of shared thoughts. So I've just put this as a sort of another little declaration of this not being ESP within a very short time. If you like, we've had one just over the other page there. Although bursts of that, if they touched, while Jessica was changing the spice poison for a ceremony. So they do have some kind of shared thoughts. There's a qualifier to it. If Jessica happens to be changing the spice poison for a ceremony and they physically touch, then they can actually share their thoughts, we're told here. So as much as it says it wasn't a matter of shared thoughts, that's not the norm. That does occur. Something larger, an immediate awareness of another living spark, as it's put here, a sharp and poignant thing, a nerve simpatico that made them emotionally one. That makes the question. If we back up a wee bit there, we were talking about Jessica leaving Arrakis ultimately, but surely it could be a motivation for it, but it would also, I would suggest, be a reason for her to stay, to be that attached to her daughter, if you see what I mean. Would you? Cynthia saying, agreed that this is not Jessica's finest hour. Yeah. Odd for a Bene Gesserit to complain about the dreariness of waiting for something. Yeah, kind of the antithesis of having a bit of patience, isn't it? I'd expect Alia to say something like that as she waits to mature physically. It's an interesting point, Cynthia. Yeah, this chapter, as you've put it, is a good way of putting it, is not Jessica's finest hour, is it? At all. Maybe it ends with a learning, teaching moment for her. But it's I get the sense that Jessica has put herself above and Paul, that we're superior in this chapter. It comes out in a couple of ways, but it's particularly the discussion about I think, discussions about marriage and succession, really, isn't it? That's the two key areas, I think. And there's what, whenever we get to Alia's story, I suppose there's something there as well. I'll point it out when we get there, Cynthia. Look forward to hearing what you think. Excuse me. So Jessica to Harah here, and we're told takes a formal manner as befitted a member of her son's household. Subak al-Kubar, Harah, this night find you well. That's my bad handwriting defeating me again, folks. Let me just plug that out. Sabag ul Kuhar Harah. This night finds you well. And we're told with the same traditional formality, she said, Sabag Unnar, I am well. The words were almost toneless. And again, she sighed. And we're told that Jessica sensed amusement from Alia. Now, the phrases I've got here, this is from Khalid M. Bahildon's work again, is that these phrases here, Sabak al-Kuhar, in modern Egypt would mean morning of good things, and should be pronounced Sabah el-Kahir, if I'm saying it correctly, or Kir. And the second such phrase there, Sabak un-Nar, I am well, with Khalid M. Bahildon's work, again, in modern Egypt, he points out, as a reply to the above, means morning of light, and should be I suppose the real term Sabah el Nur, which is, there you go. So morning of good things, as Jessica says to her, morning of light. That's a nice greeting, isn't it? If that's how people if that's why people say good morning in Egypt, I think that's really nice. It's quite poetic. Morning of good things, morning of light. That's very nice. Was it in northern? We have top of the morning to you, and it's followed by and the rest of the day to yourself. If anybody knows that one. So yes, Jessica senses amusement from Alia, and here we go. Alia says something quite. Here we go. One of these interesting things with her half lisp. My brother's Ganima is annoyed with me. Now, okay, Ganima is a term that all of us, if we know the Dune series well, and we go up to Children of Dune, etc., we'll know that this is the sister of Leto II is called Ganima. And I suppose we have this term in the terminology of the Imperium. Excuse me, I should cough away from the microphone. It says Ganima, something acquired in battle or single combat, commonly a memento of combat kept only to stir the memory. There we go. Now, Ghanima in Arabic can mean spoils of war. And I've made a wee note here. See Khums, which would be spelled Khums, and can be a type of tax. Excuse me. Now, I've also made a wee note here to see Khalid behaviour. Let's just have a wee look here. So Ghanima, this is just from Khalid's work again, which is very good. Ghanima in Arabic comes from the root g, which means to win, to gain. Many Arabic proper names use this root, as in Ghanem and Ghanam. If pronounced with a long I vowel, Ghanima would mean war booty. With a short I sound, as in Ghanima, it would mean one who gained. There we go. That wee bit of interesting stuff there. Of course, a spoil of war, quite an insulting thing to call somebody, is often a slave, by the way. I think I talked a wee while back about a Ghanima being used in this society here. Excuse me. War booty, to win, to gain, etc., etc. So there you go. A little bit of variation in the meaning if you pronounce the vowels slightly differently. And ultimately will be the twin sister of Leto II. Which made me wonder, and I suppose it's been a long time since I've been near that book, or those books, is Ghanima named after Harah, which I thought was interesting. That's where I went with that. Excuse me. Now, Jessica and the word Ghanima is what I've written down here. Jessica notes that Alia makes use of this term to refer to Harah, and Ghanima within the subtleties of the Fremen tongue, we're told, meant something acquired in battle, but had the added overtone that something no longer used for its original purpose, an ornament, a spearhead used as a curtain. Not a very nice suggestive tone, I suppose, term, if you like. Bloody hell. I think this is me at my coffeeest yet, folks. I do apologise, but I really did want to get this done. Don't like leaving them, I suppose, you know. So Harah, quite rightly, scowls at Alia. Don't try to insult me, child. I know my place. And I've written next to this 5 for likes. How is this different? Harah knows her place. I suppose from Jessica's point of view, we're told that she thinks the Fremen are better off within this paradox of the Fremen paradox, as she puts it, that the Fremen are better off in the Sietches than the Graben Pions, than these planetary slaves. And I suppose it really, you know, don't try to insult me, child. I know my place. It has several different meanings, I suppose. And I suppose the truth of it is that Harah is a Ghanima, isn't she? She is a spoil of war. She's a servant, and I suppose a slave, if you like, to Paul for a year, isn't it? Something like that. um, but benefits from that servitude. And we'll see that Harah kind of has kind of helped make her own future here a bit. Not through discussion with the men, but through the discussion with other Fremen women, I suppose. Pardon me. Oh dear. Property. Property ultimately is the context there, that which your right hand possesses, says Chris. Hi, Chris. So Jessica goes from this point, what have you done this time, Alia? What have you been up to? And Harah answered here. Not only has she refused to play with the other children today, but she intruded where, and she's going to be interrupted by Alia here, but I've put, like Paul, Alia has no real child playmates here. Alia tells us, I hid behind the hangings and watched Subae's child being born. It's a boy. He cried and cried. What a set of lungs! When he had cried long enough, and Harah interrupts her. She came out and touched her, and he stopped. Sorry, she came out and touched him, and he stopped crying. Everyone knows a Fremen baby must get his crying done at birth if he's in Sietch, because he can never cry again, lest he betray us on Hajar. Alia says, he'd cried enough. I just wanted to feel his spark, his life. That's all. And when he felt me, he didn't want to cry anymore. It's Alia's kind of doing for the little baby what Jessica did for her in a funny kind of way. Not in a funny kind of way. It seems a very similar act, doesn't it? Harah says it just made more talk among the people. Jessica asks, Subae's boy is healthy. And she saw something that's troubling Harah deeply and wondered at it. We have a fair bit of dialogue going here at this bit, by the way, folks. So Harah says, healthy as any mother could ask. They know Alia didn't hurt him. They didn't so much mind her touching him. He settled down right away and was happy. It was, and we're told Harah shrugged. And Jessica fills in the gap, I suppose. It's the strangeness of my daughter, is that it? It's the way she speaks of things beyond her years and of things no child her age should know. Things of the past. And I suppose this is really interesting because the differences between Alia and Paul is that, Paul has this kind of very similar gift, but he sees things in the future. Nobody seems to be particularly bothered by it. But Alia is the other side of that coin. One is male, looks to the future. I suppose one is female, looks to the past. But it's disconcerting, isn't it, that she's this little 2-year-old child. I think we talked about characters like Alia before, recently, and I think Alia gets to grow up, I suppose. It's quite interesting. But Alia in Dune is a child protagonist, if you like. And she reminds me on a number of characters. I think I said is it Joe Kidd from Joe Kidd from Robo Hunter, and only slightly. Who's a baby, by the way. But who was the other one I was thinking on in particular? Well, Titus grown a little bit. Who is only 2 years old, by the way, by the end of the first novel of the Gormenghast trilogy. Titus is only 2. But in particular, one character in literature that I think I would put Alia in the same kind of category as is Diagoro, the baby from Lone Wolf and Cub. Diagoro is a very interesting character, and he's a baby. How Diagoro's character develops over Just as I think he's no older than 3 or 4 by the end of the story. I think. Um, and Diagoras terrifying, absolutely terrifying, and very sympathetic and innocent in every way. Is just always, almost just up until the end, almost always still just a child. If you see what I mean, and that's what makes Diagoro heroic, I think, along with lots of other things. Um, hmm. So yeah, Alia's freaking out the locals a bit. Where do we get to? So, yes, Jessica's saying, it's the strangeness of my daughter, is that it? The way she speaks of things beyond her years and of things no child her age should know, things of the past. Harah says, how could she know what a child looked like on Bela Teguese? And Alia responds, but he does. Subarai's boy looks just like the son of Maitha, born before the parting. And Jessica says, Alia, I warned you. But mother, I saw it and it was true. And we get Jessica shaking her head and seeing signs of a disturbance on Harah's face. And here's her thoughts here. What have I borne? A daughter who knew at birth everything that I knew and more. Everything revealed to her out of the corridors of the past by the Reverend Mothers within me. And it's kind of interesting that Alia knows everything that Jessica knows and more, if we believe Jessica's thoughts here. And I suppose it's something that can make her even more tragic. Harah says it's not just the things that she says, it's the exercises too. The way she sits and stares at a rock, moving only one muscle beside her nose, a muscle on the back of a finger, or and Jessica interrupts her. Those are the Bene Gesserit training. You know that, Harah. Would you deny my daughter her inheritance? It's going to make me ask a question, actually, which I suppose there's no doubt that Alia is a Reverend Mother. The question becomes, is Alia a Bene Gesserit? And I think ultimately the answer would be no, but is being trained as a Bene Gesserit. Excuse me. And that's because she's an abomination. Alia's, we're going to get to some of this, but she's already very, very sympathetic, I suppose. Reverend Mother, you know these things don't matter to me, says Harah. It's the people. I've put in brackets my own note here. The mob, the rabble. It's the people and the way they mutter. I feel danger in it. They say your daughter is a demon, that other children refuse to play with her, that she's... I just put what? Question mark. So, if you back up a second to what Harah answered previously, Harah said that not only has she refused to play with the other children today, so she directly contradicts herself here. She refused to play with the other children. Here she says your daughter's a demon and that the other children refuse to play with her. That she's, and we're cut off here. We don't get to find out what she's going to say. And it might be abomination or something. Who knows? Jessica says she has so little in common with the other children. She's no demon. It's just the... And of course Harah goes, of course she's not. But it's very interesting. She's so little in common with the other children. She's no demon. True. Pardon me. Kind of wonder if Alia wants to pretend to be a child. because as much as you get the sense that if she's in a child's body, she knows adult things, etc. But she does behave in some ways like a child, and maybe that's that she wants to. Hmm. She's a very tricky character, isn't she? And I find Alia is very much in a, how do I put it, demanding of our sympathy. In many ways, this is everything that's done is done to Alia. She has no say in it. Jessica, surprised by the vehemence in Harah's tone, glanced down at Alia. The child appeared lost in thought, radiating a sense of waiting, and returned her attention to Harah. I've just put VG and put a big tick here. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I was just like the writing or something like that. But I've sort of VG is very good, and I put a wee tick. Let me see. Radiating a sense of waiting. Yeah. Interesting, I suppose. Patience and things like that. Patience and waiting. I respect the fact that you're a member of my son's household. We're told that Alia stirred against her hand here. This is Jessica speaking. You may speak openly with me of whatever's troubling you. How very kind of her. You can talk. Jessica speaks as an authority and acts as an authority here because she is one, I suppose. But hmm, I suppose in this desert world, the question is, should she be? Harah says, and here we go, I will not be a member of your son's household much longer. I've waited this long for the sake of my sons, the special training they receive as the children of Usul. Um, it's little enough I could give them since it's known I don't share your son's bed. And we're told Alia stirred beside Jessica, half sleeping and warm. Jessica says, you'd have made a good companion for my son, though. Sorry, I've read that wrong. You'd have made a good companion. You have made my bad handwriting. Sorry, folks. You've oh crap! I'll just read it from the book. Hang on. You'd have made a good companion for my son, though. Jessica said, and she added to herself because such thoughts were ever with her. Companion, not a wife. Jessica's thoughts went then straight to the centre, to the pang that came from the common talk in the Sietch that her son's companionship with Chani had become the permanent thing, the marriage. Not being Jessica's finest moment, as we put that. I think this has got something to do with it. Let's just catch up on your comments, thought folks. So they said, here, Alia knows how to wait, while earlier Jessica didn't know how to wait, and Harah knows how to. Yes. Yeah, there's a level of condescension coming from Jessica based on position, I think, and nothing else. And she might have all of this knowledge of all of these Reverend Mothers that and this other memory, but I suppose it becomes a question of how much has she explored it, and ultimately what we get Harah presenting here is being astute, understanding the nature of Fremen life, the community, the way things like succession work, the way partnership, marriage, companionship, as opposed to Jessica's, but how these things work within this community. What Harah gets out of this for her sons, but Harah also hears very much, as you say, Cynthia knows how to wait, and in terms of what she's got out of being made Paul's servant, you can argue that what she's got out of it and why has she put up with it, because she could choose to, is that she gets something good out of it for her children, and then at a time of her choosing, as we're going to find out, that she's made arrangements for her own living and her own family life, etc. outside of Jessica or Paul or Chani's knowledge, if you like, or understanding. Hmm. So it's you know, uh, especially saying I know my place previously here, but her place is moving. Um, I'll not be a member of your son's household much longer. I've waited this long for the sake of my sons. The special training they receive as the children of Usul. It's little enough I could give them, since it's known I don't share your son's bed. So that there's I suppose, regardless of how you would put it, there's a kind of social stigma, almost not a shame, I would say, but it's certainly a thing of gossip, if you like, that Harah has to live with Paul, but not as any, I suppose, equal in a as a couple, if you like. That that position goes to Chani. So Alia, we're told, stirred beside Jessica, half sleeping warm. You've made a good companion for my son, though, as she puts it, a companion, not a wife. And the pang that came from this, from common talk in the Sietch, so the gossip that's going on, that her son's companionship with Chani had become a permanent thing, basically a marriage. And I suppose this is why, probably why Harah wants to get her own affairs and her own life sorted out. Paul and Chani are basically not just companions. That, well, the suggestion is almost pretty much as good as a wife, man and wife, which will have lots of pain, I suppose, for Jessica. It's a harsh thing for her to bear, and particularly whenever we think about what Jessica, if we remember Jessica's thoughts about Lady Margot Fenring, and the fact that her Count Casimir Fenring married his lady, um, and it's she's Jessica's often bitter about other people's marital status, I suppose, or the nature of love, I think. Hmm. So her thoughts are I love Chani, but and she reminded herself that love might have to step aside for royal necessity. Royal marriages had other reasons than love. Excuse me. Very, very true. um, royal marriages quite fun, I think. Yeah, very bizarre over the years, with all sorts of reasons, and trying to keep it within the family, particularly within a lot of royal families. I suppose it led to a lot of inbreeding and hmm, this kind of thing. But royal marriages are very funny indeed, aren't they? Hmm. So Harah says here, you think I don't know what you plan for your son? Jessica's, what do you mean? And we're told that she demands this. I think this is quite interesting that we talk about. I like to talk about the minor characters in Dune, and how they really do open up all sorts of stuff, and how they're really interesting. And in particular, we talk about Mapes, and we talk about Peter de Vries. Harah is another such character. Um, this is again minor character. Excuse me, pretty much running the show in this chapter. Being astute, being clever, being and Seamus has negotiated a marriage worthy of her status, if you see what I mean, and worthy of her position within the Fremen, within the siege. Harah says you plan to unite the tribes under him. Jessica, is that bad? Harah says, I see danger for him, and Alia is part of that danger. So we're told Alia nestled clear to Jessica, her eyes open now, studying Harah. And yeah, Alia is. We talked about waiting, patience, and stuff like that. Alia is waiting here, I think. As you said, Sunday, and Harah knows how to wait as well. And we'll get to a point and I'll ask a question. I'd love to hear what you think. But I want to know I actually think, is all of this a setup? And I'll tell you where I wonder, is it a setup? And why Ali is waiting, if you see what I mean. So Harah says, I've watched you two together, the way you touch. And Alia is like my own flesh because she's sister to one who's like my brother. I've watched over her and guarded her from the time she was a mere baby, from the time of the razzia when we fled here. I've seen many things about her. Pardon me. Jessica nodded and felt the disquiet grow in Alia beside her. You know what I mean. Harah continues. The way she knew from the first what we were saying to her. When has there been another baby who knew the water discipline so young? What other baby's first words to her nurse were, I love you, Harah. I really like that, by the way. As I said, I think Alia is a great character in this book. And the way that Frank builds the character of Alia here. I think it's fantastic. Because she's fascinating, she's interesting, she's troubled, she's damaged. She's a 2-year-old. She's highly intelligent. And I suppose that, you have this, the sympathy for her. I suppose it comes out in different ways. But that's a particular one. Other baby's first words to her nurse were, I love you, Harah. Oh, dear. Harah says, what do you think? Why do you think I accept her insults? I know there's no malice in them. Alia looked up at her mother. Harah continues, yes, I have reasoning powers, Reverend Mother. I could have been the Sayadina. I have seen what I have seen. And Jessica says, Harah, and shrugs, I don't know what to say. And we're told she felt surprised at herself, for this was literally was true. And here we go. Alia straightened, squared her shoulders, and Jessica felt a sense of waiting ended, an emotion compounded of decision and sadness. And this is Alia speaking. We made a mistake. Now we need Harah. And Harah, it seems that this is the thing. Harah's been on the right page, and it seems as if Jessica and Ali have taken the decision not to let Harah in, and then that this has been an incorrect decision. But it almost seems that Ali is making the choices here. We made a mistake, we're told. That's her and Jessica collectively. Now we need Harah. And it might be Paul as well. It was the ceremony of the seed, Harah says, when you changed the water of life, Reverend Mother, when Alia was yet unborn within you. And we have Jessica thinking, need Harah? Asking herself. And Alia says, who else can talk among the people and make them begin to understand me? Jessica asks a question, what would you have her do? And Alia says, well, she already knows what to do. And so she does. So Harah says, I will tell them the truth. Seems a sensible thing. Her face seemed suddenly old and sad, we're told. Her olive skin drawn into frown wrinkles, witchery in the sharp features. I will tell them that Alia only pretends to be a little girl, that she has never been a little girl. And I've written next that that's the tragedy of Alia. That she's never been a little girl, she's never been a child, and she probably never has even really been a baby. She has been a fully conscious Reverend Mother from the moment of her birth. Or sorry, from before the moment of her birth. Alia shook her head and the tears ran down her cheeks, and Jessica, we're told, felt a wave of sadness from her daughter, as though the emotion were her own. And Alia says, I know I'm a freak. Oh, sorry, she whispered that, but we've got an exclamation mark on it, don't we? I know I'm a freak, she whispered. And the adult summation, we're told, coming from the child mouth was like bitter confirmation. It's a very Frank Herbert way of putting it, I think. I've made a wee note here that Paul also calls himself a freak once in Dune. Excuse me. And I think he says it out loud once and he says it in his mind once. But apart from that, the term freak is only mentioned 5 times in the book, and 3 of them are in the sentences around Alia here. So it's a singular admission that I'm a freak. You're not a freak, just like Paul. So it's something that she does that's identical to Paul, and it only occurs once. And I'm wondering, therefore, is this designed to garner? I'm getting to the question: is this staged? Is this designed to garner an emotional response from Harah? Because it does. You're not a freak. Snapped. Who dared say you're a freak? And we get Jessica again marveled at the fierce note of protectiveness in Harah's voice, saw that Alia had judged correctly. They did need Harah. And I'm going to run with that she hasn't judged this correctly. We'll see why later. The tribe would understand Harah, both words and emotions, for it was obvious that she loved Alia, as though this were her own child. Harah doesn't let it go. Who said it? And Alia says, nobody. And I've written next to this, is this staged? That's the point where I've asked this question. Nobody. Who said it? Nobody. If anybody knows who blinded the Cyclops, can you? The answer is nobody. It's a story from Greek mythology about Odysseus, isn't it? And is it Polyphemus the Cyclops, whom he blinds, but he asks his name, and he tells him his name is Oitus, which is in Greek is Oitus, in Latin is Nemo, which means nobody. So whenever all the other Cyclops, the round eyes, turn up and ask him who did this to you, he goes, nobody did it, nobody. There you go, ancient world jokes. But who called you a freak? I know I'm a freak. You're not a freak. Who dared say you're a freak? Who said it? Nobody said it. So the question I've asked is this staged? And of course, if we understand what Alia is, it's a good question. We're told that she used the corner of Jessica's abba to wipe the tears and then smoothed the robe where she dampened and crumpled it. And then Harah says to her, well, then don't you say it, she ordered. Alia says, yes, Harah. Now, you may tell me what it was like so that I may tell the others. Tell me what it is that happened to you. And so here we get Alia's story from Alia's point of view. I'm going to jump ahead a page there, put that there. Yeah, interesting. So Alia swallowed and looked to her mother, who nodded. One day I woke up. It was like waking from sleep, except that I could not remember going to sleep. I was in a warm, dark place, and I was frightened. We're told that Jessica, listening to her daughter's half-lisping voice, remembered that day in the big cavern. Excuse me. Alia continues, when I was frightened, I tried to escape, but there was no way to escape. Pardon me. Then I saw a spark, but it wasn't exactly like seeing it. The spark was just there with me, and I felt the spark's emotions, soothing me, comforting me, telling me that way that everything would be all right. That was my mother. Harah rubbed her eyes, excuse me, and smiled reassuringly at Alia. A look of wildness in her eyes and intensity, as though they too were trying to hear Alia's words. And Jessica's thoughts here: what do we really know of how such a one thinks? Out of her unique experiences, training, and ancestry. Hmm. And it's a good question, isn't it? How do we know what anybody thinks? Um, how do we, what do we really know about how such a one thinks? I wonder how this Harah thinks out of her unique experiences. It's a good question. We all think different. We all have completely different life experiences. Um, we do all sorts of things as human beings. We tend to judge books by their covers, this kind of thing, if you see what I mean. We have lots of preconceptions about people. Based entirely on their differences from us, from yourself, if you like. Excuse me. As I like to put it, everybody knows something you do not. Yeah, it's nice to bump. It's nice to bump into people. I used to, when I was younger, I used to do this actually more when I lived in London actually. But I used to ask people, "What did you know? What do you know that I don't? Tell me something I don't know." It's an interesting way of talking to people. What do you know that I don't? And you'll usually find something pretty quickly. They'll come up with something. Oh, I can do this. You can't. I bet you. Oh, go on, tell me. Underestimation. Thinking less of your fellow human beings based upon their wherever for whatever reason. There's always someone quicker, smarter, stronger. You name it. Prettier, uglier. Someone will always exceed you in some way. I think it's nice to meet people on that. If it's a nice way to engage with people, I think, if you do it in a positive way. Um, But what do you really know about this woman here? Well, Alia's telling her story. We're going to find out what we really know about Harah at the end of it. I suppose Harah's shows her mettle here, shows her quality, her worth. Alia continues with her story. Just when I felt safe and reassured, there was another spark with us, and everything was happening at once. The other spark was the old Reverend Mother. This is the Reverend Mother Romalo. She was trading lives with my mother, everything. And I was there with them, seeing it all, everything. And it was over, and I was them and all the others and myself. And it took me a long time to find myself again. There were so many others. So we're getting a description of the nature of being preborn and being the nature of abomination, if you like. And we get Jessica's comment here. It was a cruel thing. No being should wake no being should wake into consciousness. Thus, the wonder of it is that you could accept all that happened to you. And I suppose there's a bit of foreshadowing there. That's the wonder that this little, that you could accept all this. The question, well, Alia's response is, I couldn't do anything else. In other words, I did accept all that happened to me. And it's not presented as, I dealt with it, if you see what I mean. It's more to do with ignorance. I didn't know how to reject or hide my consciousness or shut it off. Everything just happened. Everything. And it's an interesting thing to think about what Alia is talking about. I suppose our tools and means and ways of dealing with the collective unconsciousness, that the things that she didn't know how to do then, we can assume that she knows how to do now. In other words, that she can reject, how to reject or hide my consciousness, how to reject a consciousness, how to hide her consciousness, how to shut it off, how to stop all these voices. To her, everything just happened, everything. And Harah says here, we didn't know. So this is kind of an admission of mutual culpability, I think. We didn't know. When we gave your mother the water to change, we didn't know you existed within her. And I've written next to this, and again, as we were pointing out, this isn't Jessica's finest moment. I've written next to this, Jessica knew and could easily have told them. Jessica did this deliberately and with intent. For Paul, ultimately, I suppose the consequences to Alia be damned. What goes on with Alia, I suppose, in that chapter, I look at it as an attempt to save the child, to save Alia by her and Ramallo. Though, whether you do or not, that's good luck, I suppose. So it's interesting to see that she has survived here in this way, and that it in itself is a wonder, I suppose, as Jessica puts it. The wonder of it is that you could accept all that happened to you. It didn't drive you nuts. So Alia's response here is quite sad in itself, I think. Don't be sad about it, Harah. I shouldn't feel sorry for myself. Yes, she should. Actually, she's every right to. After all, there's cause for happiness here. Okay, every cloud has a silver lining. I am a reverend mother. The tribe has 2 reverend, and we're told that this conversation's broke off. So the silver lining is that there's 2 reverend mothers, and that's what she is. The sad thing about Alia is that she never gets to be, never was, never is, never was a child. And I don't know how much of that's true, and how much of the child actually is in Alia, and how much of it remains there, if you see what I mean. So Alia broke off with her heads tipped to listen. Harah's rocking back on her heels, staring at Alia, and then the attention to Jessica's face, and Jessica goes, "Didn't you suspect?" And Alia goes, "Shh." And we hear this rhythmic chanting. So in the distance, there's rhythmic chanting in the distance that came to them through the hangings that separated the Sietch corridors. It grew louder, carrying distinct sounds now. We have this ya ya yum, muzain walla, ya muzain walla is what's being chanted. Now, in the sorry about that. In the terminology of the Imperium, we have ya yum. So ya, we're told, is now pay attention, and yum is a variation of that, something akin to now hear this. I'm told now in Arabic, ya is like hey, as in hey you, and the yom is a word for day. So ya yom, I got this off Kaladin Bahildin's website, and I really like this. And if you can figure out why, based on the T-shirt that I'm wearing, is another way of saying, "Oh, what a day!" And I'd actually quite like to figure out what is the Arabic for "what a lovely day" to go after that. So there we go. Ya yom is "oh, what a day" in Arabic, but we have ya yom, ya yom. So it's kind of like now hear this, now hear this. And muzain walla. Muzain is nothing good. And walla is what we're told is a reflexive terminal exclamation. Okay, and nothing good, never good, or good for nothing. So in Arabic, I'm told that Muzain is not good, while Walla is, again, a reflexive terminal exclamation, which means I swear by Allah. Uh, hmm, there we go. A little bit of linguistic info on those, but I really like that Ya Yom is oh, what a day, and it has that exclamation mark. It just very much Mad Max Fury Road, isn't it? That'll be interesting. I wonder if I can if I could put Mad Max Fury Road and get the subtitles and the language track over to Arabic and see what it says. Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! That'd be interesting. So these chanters passed the outer entrance. We're told their voices boomed through through to the inner apartments, and then slowly the sound receded. And when it had done so sufficiently, Jessica began the ritual sadness in her voice. So once again, more ritual here. This is the ritual remembering the attacks, the raids on the various Fremen people on the different planets in their past. And it's told as a sort of narrative, a story, isn't it? A shared narrative. Jessica begins it. It was Ramadan and April on Bela Teguese. Harah says, my family sat in their pool courtyard in air breathed by the moisture that arose from the spray of the fountain. There was a tree of portugals, round and deep in colour, near at hand. There was a basket with mishmish and baklava, and mugs of Liban, all manner of good things to eat in our gardens and in our flocks. There was peace, peace in all the land. Now, just a wee quick, very, very similar to stuff that you would find in kind of the Arabian Nights and etc. The talk of food within the narrative here. Portugals are oranges, come from the Arabic word for bortical. Sorry if I'm probably pronouncing that wrongly. Bortical, which means oranges, apparently comes from the word Portugal, which comes from portocallis. So Portugals are oranges. Mishmish are apricots. Baklava is a heavy pastry made with date syrup in the Dune universe, but is have a look at them on Wikipedia. Pastries associated with, I think, Turkey in particular. Liban is, we're told, a spice water infused with yucca flour, which was originally a sour milk drink. And I've written here is actually a gum from a tree, which is considered aromatic and medicinal. So there you go. We've got lots of instances of food in the remembering of their, I suppose, the safety and sanctity of their home. A house that had a pool courtyard with moisture, a fountain, oranges. What wealth compared to Fremen life here on Arrakis. Alia continues with the story. Life was filled with happiness until the raiders came. And Jessica says, blood ran cold at the screams of friends, and she felt the memories rush through her out of these other pasts that she shared. Harah says, la, 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 the woman cried. And Jessica says, the raiders came through the mush tunnel, rushing at us with their knives dripping red from the lives of our men. And then a silence came over the three of them, as it was in all apartments of the Sietch. Silence while they remembered and kept their grief thus fresh. A mush tunnel is a small garden annex or courtyard. So I'm going to have to take a wee pause, a wee quick second, folks. But the last little bit of that is that they kept their grief thus fresh. which is not always a good thing. Excuse me 1 wee second, I'll be right back. There we go, folks. Sorry about that. I really am coughing my brains out tonight, and with the super wheezy, it's got to the point where I think I'm just having a smoke because what harm could it do? Aye, but yeah, it's funny when you don't actually feel ill. And it really is a hot cold thing, just comes and goes. Oh, but my head's pounding, and I think it's the air pressure. It's so cold here at the minute. We have the house battened down, and yeah, heating on full blast. But as I said, we went 3 days without any heat, so it's been one of them hot, cold things, you know. And I've had my flu jab and everything, you know. Oh, let me catch up on your comments for a few moments. Let's see. What have we got? Uh, here, Alia knows how to be whether Jada. Harah knows how. Yeah. So this is interesting that Jessica is willing to have the Fremen people know what happens when a new Reverend Mother is made. Later, Reverend Mother Gaius Helmohim would scold Alia for speaking of this in the presence of the Emperor. I wonder, is it possible because that Harah may have been up for the Sayadina here, as she's mentioned? Or maybe it's a women only thing, but to talk about it in front of a man, possibly as the Emperor, I don't know. But yeah, you'd assume it's a big secret. Nobody mentions kind of prior to this that every Reverend Mother has a whole horde of other Reverend Mothers. Wow, what a resource that they're like a chorus, So this says the scene with Jessica, Harah, and Alia could be staged. That was my question. Let's see what Cynthia thinks. Given how expositional and polished the questions and answers are, surely they've had these conversations before. It will improve Harah's position. And Chaya Rivka saying it was all women. Oh, da, da, da. Wee bit of context, Chaya. I think I might have missed. Am I on live chat or top chat? I've got live chat. I might have missed something. Or could you just, in terms of what you were referring to? Because I've probably forgotten what I asked. Yeah, and it's kind of what I was saying about the questions and answers previously. There was a point with the Baron where I was almost at the point that this is very similar to what was the play I was thinking on? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, if you know what I mean. Improve Harah's position. I think. Well, I suppose Harah's position is an interesting thing to where she is with Paul and Jessica, etc. Within Paul's household, she's about to shift households, isn't she? As we're about to find out, and has been doing this herself. She's a mover and shaker, if you see what I mean. She hasn't, and Harah has created I suppose the position that she's going to be moving to within Stilgar's household is one of power, and it's a mutual thing, I suppose, along with one of Stilgar's wives, isn't it? So the silence came over the three of them as it was in all apartments of Sietch. Silence while they remembered, kept their grief thus fresh. And I wrote, that's pathetic, that's not good. To keep that grief going on generation after generation. Long past where the people who were involved are long gone. That kind of thing's not good for a society. We're told presently Harah utters the ritual ending to the ceremony, giving the words a harshness that Jessica had never before heard in them. We will never forgive and we will never forget. Jaya was talking about the process of becoming a Reverend Mother in Sietch versus in front of the Emperor. In Sietch, it was all women. Yeah. Again, well, we've got that coming up here as well, because that's kind of what I got. But we've got the young men in the Sietch, don't we, as well? And it was just an interesting point because there's not that much privacy in Fremen life. It's communal life, isn't it? And that they do have some kind of shared Tao, isn't it? As we're told, it's an interesting one. Yeah, but I think it's talking about the process of becoming a Reverend Mother in the Sietch versus in front of the Emperor. In Sietch, it was all women. But we've got the young men, and the young men are. I'm going to be doing a video very shortly, hopefully soon, on the word for world is forest, and this part about the young men. It's a very big part of that. I think it's very interesting that both authors look at the problems with the young men in these books. So let's see, where do we get to? Thank you, Chaya. Uh, Harshness, yes, we will never forgive and we will never forget. Oh, my throat seems to be better now. There's a thoughtful quiet followed her words, and she heard a muttering of people, the swish of many robes, and Jessica sensed that someone standing beyond the hangings that shielded her chamber. So this is Tharthar, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we hear Reverend Mother. And so what we're told, sorry, jumping ahead there, this is a woman's voice, and Jessica recognized it as the voice of Tharthar, one of Stilgar's wives. So we'd imagine that Tharthar is a woman in a position of authority within the siege, and very high up. This is Stilgar's wife, or one of them, as we're told, but nevertheless, still someone who would be in a position of power and respect within the siege. Jessica says, "What is it, Tharthar?" Tharthar says, "There's trouble, Reverend Mother." And Jessica felt a constriction of her heart and a brought fear for Paul. Paul! She gasped. That's good. I can gasp tonight. Paul! She gasped. Trouble, Reverend Mother. Her son's nowhere near here, but that's exactly where her thoughts go. Immediately to Paul. So Tharthar, we're told, spread the hangings and entered, and Jessica glimpsed a press of people in the outer room before the hangings fell. So there's a bit of an audience here. We're told that Jessica looked up at Tharthar. We're told she's a small, dark woman in a red-figured robe of black, with the total blue of her eyes trained fixedly on Jessica. Nostrils on tiny nose, on a tiny nose dilated to reveal plug scars. The attributes of the Fremen. What is it? Asked Jessica. Excuse me. So Tharthar says there is word from the sand. Usul meets the maker for his test. So Paul's doing his test. It is today. Paul's doing his driving test. The young men who are here say he cannot fail. That's an absolute. And he will be a sand rider by nightfall. The young men are banding for Arazia, which we're told is a guerrilla type raid. They will raid in the north and meet Usul there. They say they will force him, not ask him, force him to call out Stilgar and assume command of the tribes. And so generally this is, we get a lot of this sort of kind of thing in this kind of literature at the time, believe it or not. The young men are stupid. Young men are dangerous. Young men will cause this kind of thing, if you see what I mean. But particularly, there's a fair amount of comments on the aggressive nature of young men. I suppose one of the best books that you can read on that, if you want a good understanding on it from an educator's point of view, would be Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. Have a look at that if you ever. That's a very interesting book. And I suppose it approaches education of young men in that sense from two different philosophical approaches, one being Augustianism and the other being Pelagianism. And if you know a wee bit about Anthony Burgess, it's worth looking into the background about that book, about why it was written. And it has a different ending than the film. It's an interesting thing. Oh, no, hang on. I was talking about the process of becoming a Reverend Mother. I disagree with you, Doc, says Chaya. Okay. Maintaining communal memory of past history is cohesive for a people, society. They're not mourning and reliving the past continually, but rather at a periodic observance. Cynthia saying Clockwork Orange is a favourite novel. I like it as well. Oh, it's not quite what I meant, Chaya. Let me back up to that. Let me see. I get what you're saying. I totally agree with you about maintaining, communal memory of past history, oral tradition, etc. It's not what I meant. Let me see. Oh, what did I back up? The ritual begins. So it was Ramadan. It was April. Blah blah blah. It's not the ritual. It recalls the. It's the last part of it, isn't it? It's the. Let me see. How was it put? Well, as much as Harah says we will never forgive and we will never forget, where did I write pathetic next to? Hang on. That bit. Kept their agree. Sorry, Chaya. It was a specific thing I was referring to. You're right to disagree with me there, by the way. But I'm agreeing with you. Communal memory of past history is cohesive for a people society. They're not mourning and reliving the past continually, but rather at a periodic observance. So their periodic observance is isn't it every night? And I get this in a sense. What I'm trying to say is, I suppose, from my own point of view, kept their grief, um, kept their grief thus fresh, and that's the bit that's problematic to me. Um, and it would be damaging to a people if you understand. If we want to say that a people have any kind of people have a culture, a spirit, or a Tao, or whatever, some kind of collective semblance of identity, to keep it permanently immersed in grief is would be harmful. I think that's kind of what I thought, and that's why I wrote. And I wrote pathetic, by the way, in the Greek sense of the word. So no, I'm not saying that oral tradition, etc., this kind of thing, remember, is bad at all. Through silence, the memory was maintained. The line was long, that line. So this is a good point, Chaya. Partly, perhaps that's why the women didn't like Alia remembering the child's face from Teguese earlier. She recalled it at the wrong time, perhaps. The nightly ritual had not yet begun. I got the sense that it felt kind of possessive, Cynthia, that how can she know, what the child of Mytha looked like? She's just, that kind of thing. It was perhaps just the logic of it that made it disagreeable, I suppose. But sorry, Chaya. Yeah, I was specifically for me that bit kept their grief thus fresh. Societies that keep their grief that fresh on a daily basis feed it back into their society. I suppose mine does. But at the same time, I totally get what you're saying, Chaya. It's I don't know. Talking about a people remembering the horrors that are inflicted upon them by other parties periodically, generation upon generation, throughout migration, about migration. I get the reference, but at the same time, it's a very, to do it every day. I think, to remind yourself of that to keep the grief that fresh, I think would be harmful to a society. And I think it probably, well, I suppose we can see the way the Fremen deal with it in some ways. But no, I do get, remembrance and all of those things. I suppose every year we do the Remembrance Sunday, don't we, in this country anyway. And they have this thing for an unknown soldier. And technically, my grandfather is an unknown soldier. I've never quite known what to think about that. And the reasons for him being unknown are even more, I suppose, negative. I suppose, but it's just to focus, to keep the grief. Grief is one thing, I suppose. I don't know. I'm maybe overthinking it, but I think it's probably more a personal point of view. To keep the grief thus fresh over thousands of years. is to maintain, I suppose, the future and the pain of the past. But you don't want to forget these things, do you? They're important to learn. Hmm. Hmm. China says, is there a Reverend Mother in each Sietch or one for all Fremen? Um, each Sietch would need their own for spice orgies, but it seems a bit odd that it would be hundreds, if not thousands. Hard to hide from the Bene Gesserit that many wild Reverend Mothers. I think there's meant to be one for each Sietch. And Stilgar makes a remark about it that we've been without one before. And I suppose within the Fremen system, we get a hint here that it is like the Faufa-like system. That there's a place for people, and Harah, sorry, tells us that she knows her place, and she says that she could have been a Sayadina. So I imagine in a community of 10 to 20,000, we're probably one per each, maybe on the training of a successor, I suppose. Can't have too many chiefs, as they like to say. Hmm. But yeah, some of the things that are meant to be big bad secrets in this universe, I don't know. They seem kind of obvious to some people, I suppose. And as we point out, maybe people, there's maybe something else in that Jessica's quite happy to chat within the siege. And I suppose in a way she's gone against the Bene Gesserit, but there's people hanging around outside, and I can relate to this in a funny way that it's to do with the coffee, isn't it? What sort of society can I live in where I can somebody puts down a cup of coffee and I'll take it and drink it, and I would tell you that I'm not that person, and yeah, I've had some interesting problems with my career for a wee while there back. But one of them was I rented an office where I could tutor my kids, and the people from the kind of like a games workshop shop next door kept wanting to come in and give my kids hot chocolate, and as a no, and they had no understanding of boundaries or child protection or anything like that, which is an interesting one, I suppose. But in terms of people maintaining their security, I've had a problem with that for a long time. I suppose which was partly to do with my dad, but as he got older, the less he cared about his security or ours, I suppose, and would happily just for the joy of telling a story, give away everything that you shouldn't, I suppose. So it was kind of got hard to deal with for a wee while, I suppose, from my point of view. Is that the person that brings you up to keep your security tight and tight and tight and not talk to people, and then he goes around telling everyone what they shouldn't know, and that's one of those things, I suppose. But yeah, I think Jessica's relaxed a bit here. And in other words, what I'm trying to say is, the fact that she'll take the coffee without running a poison sniffer over it, maybe has made her relax a bit in ways such as like this. Not really considering, I suppose, Fremen society to be within the Freufer likes. Where did I get to? Sorry, hang on a sec, folks. I've lost me. The young man. So yeah, the young men are banding for Arazia. They want to do a raid. Yeah, to show meet up with this one. And we're told that they will use force to call out Stilgar. So force, violence, take your pick. They're not quite the same thing, but they're going to make it happen, which suggests that they don't know their place. And the new Jessica's thoughts on this are kind of enlightening, I suppose. Gathering water, planting the dunes, changing the world slowly but surely. These are no longer enough. The little raids, the certain raids, these are no longer enough that Paul and I have trained them. They feel their power, They want to fight. Hand someone a gun, and inevitably they'll want to try and shoot somebody with it. I think it's young men, power, violence is what I've written down here. We're told that Tharthar shifted from one foot to the other and cleared her throat. And Jessica's thoughts continue here. Still hasn't given a response. We know the need for cautious waiting, but there's the core. There's the core of our frustration. We know also the harm that waiting extended too long can do to us. We lose our sense of purpose if the waiting's prolonged. I made a wee note there. I think is that a comment on humanity? Excuse me. But the point is, I suppose, Jessica's talking about 4 years to take on the Empire, to take on the planetary governor of Raban. It's a long time, isn't it? Particularly for a military campaign. And would suggest that all sorts of things could happen in the interim. There tends to be, I suppose, an impatience about these things. The young men say if Usul does not call out Stilgar, then he must be afraid. There you go. If 1 doesn't equal 2, then 3. That kind of logic. She lowered her gaze. So that's the way of it, Jessica muttered and thought. Well, I saw this coming. I saw it coming, as did Stilgar. And she's quite correct here. Stilgar's kind of primed them for this from the beginning. And as much as what is happening with the young men is happening here, Stilgar has had foresight, if you like. And I suppose that this is creating another one of these nexus points for everything that Stilgar, if things went a certain way with Paul and his mother, etc., then this would come to pass. And it is happening. Again, Tharthar, cleared her throat. Even my brother Shuab says it. They will leave Usul no choice. And again, this is speaking to our epigraph, isn't it? If we just flick back, the rabble, who rules? Who are the rabble and who are the ruled? And we're getting very much pointed out here. Well, what's occurring is that simply the mob of young men that the Fremen control, if you like, they're young, violent men, but like Jamis, are going to force the issue. Whether their Messiah wants it or not, and whether the leader of their tribes wants it or not, and whether the Reverend Mother wants it or not. That's all 3 of their authority figures. The young men will force the issue. Who has the power? And in this case, it's the young men, really, aren't they? They're going to force the issue. Can Paul, Jessica, Stilgar, Alia, can they deal with it? But it's an interesting thing. My brother Shuab, I've put here, Shuab is another name for Jethro, which is Moses' father-in-law. I believe. Even he says they will leave us no choice. This is Tharthar, her brother. We're getting a bit of, Stilgar's immediate family, if you like. Jessica's thoughts here is then it has come. And Paul will have to handle it himself. There you go. Good luck to him. The Reverend Mother dare not become involved in this succession. So it wants it. And again, why not? It seems very much a separation of male-female power here as well. But the succession in this case is for the good of the tribe, the power of the tribe. This isn't a religious succession. It's not the way it's handled. The Reverend Mothers do it differently. They exchange knowledge and information and personality stored within. The men fight to the death. Yeah, basically, regardless of how you look at it, the female position keeps something going, and the male position always kills something, or usually kills something. There's Carlos Cresselia saying, "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late. Good point, Chaya. I'm sure there's more than one, but who knows how many." Oh, hang on. Have I missed something? The silence, the memory was maintained. The line was long along that line. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, we got, I suppose, in relation to how many Reverend Mothers, how many wild Reverend Mothers there are, even statistically, what we have a universe of 1,000 planets at least, I think. There's bound to be a fair few. So the question, I suppose, becomes with Reverend Mothers. Um, if we back up a little bit, we have to forget, we can't forget that the Bene Gesserit are a school, I suppose, aren't they? And essentially, more, well, a guild, more like than anything. But they're a school, and I suppose you have to join. It's easy sometimes to almost think that every woman in Dune is a Bene Gesserit, but it's not the case. Um, that becomes the question then: is why not? Why aren't they all part of this fantastic club, this wonderful sisterhood? You know. Mm. So where are we? Alia says, "I will go with Arthur and listen to the young men. Perhaps there is a way." And I've written at the top of this now. We're going to run into this here. I've written this bit is Jessica being. We're just going to cut off of this a little bit here, but following that, I've written that this is Jessica being a bitch to Harah and the Fremen here. So Jessica met Tharthar's gaze and spoke to Alia. Go then and report to me as soon as you can. Now, that mirrors what we started with Alia's report to Jessica. Alia reports to Jessica. And we had Paul mention about his mother's spies. Report to me as soon as you can. Tharthar says, we do not want this thing to happen, Reverend Mother. Her being Stilgar's husband. Or sorry, wife. Jessica says, we do not want it. She agreed. The tribe needs all its strength. And she glanced at Harah. Will you go with them? Now, Harah, this is kind of interesting. And again, I'd love to hear what you think, guys. Harah answered the unspoken part of the question. And I think, what does that mean? I think it refers to Ali's safety. Here. Tharthar will allow no harm to befall Alia. Okay, so it needs to be said out loud, I suppose. She knows we will soon be wives, and this is to do with Harah and the situation here with Stilgar's household. So she knows we will soon be wives together, she and I, to share the same man. We have talked, Tharthar and I. We have an understanding. So Tharthar held out a hand for Alia. We must hurry. The young men are leaving. So they press through the hangings, and we're told that the child's hand is in the small woman's hand, Tharthar's, but the child seemed to be leading. Now, this is the bit where it really begins, I suppose. We're right at the end of the chapter. I've just written here, is Jessica being a complete bitch to Harah and the Fremen? There's something about her behaviour here that I've almost immediately I've written, as I'm reading this in a linear fashion, hopefully the same way you guys are, I've just written "uh-oh" in a second, and I got that there was something really wrong here in Jessica's tone and her attitude, everything about it. So Harah says this: if Paul Muad'Dib slays Stilgar, this will not serve the tribe. Always before, it has been the way of succession, but times have changed. And this echoes Stilgar's wisdom that things change. And Jessica says, times have changed for you as well. So the law of succession is meant to serve the tribe. This will not do it, is what Harah is saying. Times have changed. There must be, she's suggesting there's got to be some other way. Times have changed for you as well, says Jessica. And that's where I wrote, uh-oh. I've also written almost immediately after this, is Jessica like a cuckoo? So Harah says, "You cannot think that I doubt the outcome of such a battle. Usul could not but win." Jessica's response here, "That was my meaning." And I've written next to that, "That's cold. Times have changed for you as well." In other words, Stilgar is not going to win the next battle of succession. Paul will. That's when Harah says, "You cannot think I doubt the outcome of such a battle. Usul could not but win." She's being realistic, pragmatic. "That was my meaning. Your husband to be will die at the hands of my son." It's things have changed, haven't they? The shift in power, and Jessica's at the top of that pyramid. Harah's arranged. Looks like she's going to become a wife of Stilgar, and arranged the marriage within that family with the approval of one of Stilgar's wives, Tharthar. Would give her a certain position again within Fremen society. She's already got a great position there, I think. But it says, Harah says, "And you think my personal feelings enter into my judgment?" And it's not a question, by the way. There's no question mark. That's what you think. She shook her head, her water rings tinkling at her neck. Her water rings, remember, a sign of her status, wealth, and power. Excuse me, within the Sietch. It's a little motif of Harah's, isn't it? The tinkling of the water rings. And here we go. And this, again, Harah is, I think Harah absolutely shines in this chapter. I absolutely adore her character, almost as much as Mapes. And I think it's the calling out here. It really, what Jessica doesn't know, what she's oblivious to. "And you think my personal feelings enter into my judgment?" It's not a question. She shook her head, the water rings tinkling at her neck. "How wrong you are. Perhaps you think, as well, that I regret not being the chosen of Usul, that I am jealous of Chani." And I put that as a question. Jessica says, "You make your own choice as well as you're able." Harah tells her, "I pity Chani." "What do you mean?" "I know what you think of Chani. You think that she is not the wife for your son." And Jessica, and again, everything about her here is wrong. I just settle back. Oh, phew, almost like that. She relaxed on the cushions and shrugged. "Yeah, perhaps." So what Harah says is, "I know what you think of Chani. You think she's not the wife for your son. Yeah, perhaps." Of course, we've had Jessica telling us that she loves Chani. "Perhaps. You could be right," says Harah. "If you are, excuse me, you may find a surprising ally. Chani herself. Pardon me. She wants whatever is best for him." Now, in other words, if you don't think Chani's the right wife for your son, and if you are right about it, then the person who you'll find to be your best ally in this matter is actually Chani herself, because she wants whatever is best for him. And if we overlay that, if we think about Harah's situation within Paul's household, the arrangement that she's made with Tharthar, I imagine that the whole point of this, and there is something lost badly on Jessica, is that this is kind of what's happened with Tharthar and Harah, if you see what I mean. If Harah's going to join Stilgar's household, Tharthar's okay about this. They've made an arrangement about it. I would argue that Tharthar has done so because she wants whatever is best for Stilgar and the tribe subsequently after. I think that's the point I think that's being made. And that Chani would do the same thing. Chani would act like a Fremen in this matter. Tharthar and Harah are acting like Fremen in this matter. But Jessica is not. And I think we talked about maybe her separation from these people. Here we go. Chani's very dear to me. Sorry, we're told that she swallowed past the sudden tightening of her throat. Chani's very dear to me. She could be no, and she's cut off by Harah. And this is how we end this chapter. Your rugs are very dirty in here. She swept her gaze around the floor, avoiding Jessica's eyes. So many people tramping through here all the time. You really should have them cleaned more often. And I've just put epic rug put down from Harah. Is quite a powerful. I imagine I get it. I'm sure you do too. It's a pretty full-on insult, isn't it? And again, possibly this member of this rabble to Jessica, but Jessica's really put in her place here. She's misjudged things by the looks of it. She's focused on Paul when actually the danger is something else. It's to do with Paul, but it's not, yeah, there we go. That's us at the end of chapter 41, folks. We've picked up a little bit more language, etc. We've got to see how the women kind of live and work together. Problems with the young men. We've got Alia's story of what it's like to be Alia, how she became aware in the womb, etc. And we learn about the various raids and I suppose slave raids conducted on the Fremen people over the various points of places of safety, or where they've assumed they've been safe for a while in their migrations. So quite a lot going on in this chapter, to be honest, really filling in. We get a little, as I said, some of Fremen culture. We've got food, we've got religious rites, we've got a nightly religious rite there. And a little bit of understanding. And I genuinely, I'm not. It's one of those chapters where I come out of this and I'm loving Alia in this. I'm loving Harah in this. We don't see much of Tharthar, but she seems kind of impressive. Jessica's the character that just comes out of this chapter not feeling right, feeling diminished. And is it maybe that she seems to be putting herself on a pedestal? She has a position of power, a position of comfort. We see when she talks about, it's not as big as the place I had in Sietch Tamar, this kind of thing. I suppose in her integration within Fremen society because of the use of ritual. And, I suppose people bringing her coffee, etc. There's all sorts of things within this chapter. It gives us a really good introduction to Alia, finally getting to see something of Alia. And a very impressive, tragic, sad and sympathetic character who's also still, off she goes to go, but it seems like as much as we come out of this chapter, I personally come out of this chapter feeling a lot of sympathy for Alia and pity, this kind of thing, but also feeling like a 4-star general has just walked out the room in the form of a 2-year-old girl. Issues with the men, I suppose, timelines, etc. But there's something about Jessica. She, she is the mother of the Messiah. This kind of thing. I get a sense that there's something changed in her behavior within this, and that it's not. She's more Atreides than ever, I think. And I don't know if as we were talking about it, we talked a wee bit about the difference between Paul getting used to being on Arrakis and Jessica not liking it. I'll never get used to this place. This kind of thing. Um, I don't know. The other thing I suppose is where you have Harah kind of apologizing to Alia for the rite of the seed, another ritual. We didn't know when we gave your mother the water to change. We didn't know you existed within her. Alia has to know at that point that her mum knew, and Jessica knew. So that there is something of a deception there. I think that there's almost in a sense of guilt about Alia with Harah. I think. I don't know what you think. The fascinating character, but Harah really comes to the fore. Harah kicks ass in this chapter, I think. To me, it's a complete humiliation of not that anybody else is left to see it. If you see what I mean, it's almost subtle, but yeah, it's a bit of a humiliation of Jessica. We're almost always quite impressed by Jessica, and again, this is something I think of the warning of our hero and his mother. If you see what I mean, just catch your questions and comments here for a wee second, folks. There's Carlos Casilia saying, "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late. Good point, Chair. I'm sure there's more than one, but who knows how many." Yes, thanks for joining us, Carlos. There's Vele saying, "I made it in time to catch you. Hope you're well." Thank you, Vele. I've been coughing and spluttering all night. I've been very wheezy. Just come back. I've been on holiday in Amsterdam where it's been positively Baltic. And then came back to a few days of no heating. And then we've had a lot of moisture and freezing conditions here. So it's kind of a change in air, and I've just been very wheezy. And I don't feel bad at all. Though I think I'm a bit bunged up at the minute, to be honest with you. Cynthia says, Tharthar accepts Alia because of Harah's upcoming status as one of Stilgar's wives, not necessarily because of the stage story that tries to humanize Alia, an aspect of Harah's importance to Jessica and Alia. Because of Harah's upcoming status as one of Stilgar, not necessarily because of the stage story that tries to humanize Alia. Yeah, there's a suggestion. I don't know if you got this, Cynthia, or not, or if anybody got this, but that Harah has to provide reassurance to Jessica. There, the unanswered part of that question is it's almost, is it okay for Alia to go with this woman? And she knows who Tharthar is. But I suppose it's to do with maybe the rumblings within the Fremen, community about it. Alia seems more than capable, though. And if she's not a child and never was, it doesn't make her, I suppose, not a human being, if you see what I mean. But it's just the whole, don't be sad about it, Harah. I shouldn't feel sorry for myself. After that's Harah says, we didn't know when we gave your mother the water. We didn't know when we gave your mother the water to change. We didn't know you existed within her. It's very much almost a mea culpa, I think. And Alia says, don't be sad about it. Yeah, I think I think Alia and Harah have a genuine relationship. I think I don't know. It's Jessica's the one that seems all of these people are here to be used for Paul's benefit, and I wonder how that works with Jessica and Alia. As I said, we've read in this chapter that they can share their thoughts at the point where Jessica transmutes the water of life from poison into something that into Sietch orgy drug, if you like. And Frank says it's sort of not telepathy, but I think it's kind of an attempt to sort of. I think Jessica. I don't know what you think, Cynthia. I think Jessica's just made the wrong. wrong political move here. If you see what I mean, it's like there's going to be a face-off between our man and your man, that kind of thing. And whereas Harah and Tharthar are very much, how can we stop this? Jessica's yes, and my son will win, and we will rule. Almost, it's kind of there's something quite sinister about her here, and I think what's really nice in some ways is that there's the foil to it is Alia, but at the same time, the last we see of Alia, there's something quite sinister about her too. And we should pity her for never having been a child, I suppose, shouldn't we? But becomes the question of what is she? Because if she's not a child, then she's simply something that appears to be a 2-year-old child. I don't know. Part of me thinks she's a 2-year-old as well as all the other things, if you see what I mean. But Harah is definitely important. I also got the sense that Alia is more with it, more decisive, more in tune with what's happening here. And we also have the word pity appear a few times in this chapter. And I think, Alia, certainly Alia's character is designed to evoke pity in us, I think. There's a separation in both Alia and Jessica from Fremen society, if you like, in a way. It's the position that Jessica holds separates her, as well as they're being off-worlders, if you like. Well, Alia is not, is she? She's born on Arrakis. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it really does make you wonder how much of what Alia says and does is an act. It's hard to put it, but I think there is a real innocence with her, which is presented as the Alia. I think the innocence within Alia is presented as the child that she wants to be, and I suppose the vulnerability comes of a child comes from her size. The fact that she might have all these intelligences and minds and memories stored within her, but she still hasn't developed her soft palate yet. She's still talking with a lisp. This kind of thing. She's 2. That's, we're not talking, like a 6 or 7-year-old. We're talking a 2-year-old, the terrible 2s, if you see what I mean. And there is something very intriguing and very tragic about her. But at the same time, I don't know, part of her comes across as like a little, I don't know, little secret agent. Yeah, it's almost a kind of trope within fiction and movies these days, isn't it? The child that acts and behaves like an adult. It's a kind of common done thing nowadays for comedy effect, isn't it, really? There's an awful lot of characters like that in films and TV. But none of them are quite Alia, I suppose. Cynthia says Alia sheds tears about the fact that she's not a child. Is that an act or genuine? Probably both. Yeah, it's. I kind of on the same page. I think it's both. That there is an act there, but there's a reality to it. She would lament, wouldn't you? If you were of that intelligence and that ability, just still also, as much as I know this, I can solve all the world's problems. I've got all these people, but stored in my memory. But it's rosebud, isn't it? I wish I could have been a child. And thinking back to your childhood, it goes so quick, and we have a different quality about us as we're children. And so even things like Peter Pan, who's quite a dodgy, murderous little so and so, I suppose the idea of never growing up. This is a child who will never be a child. We have Saul Weintraub's child in the Hyperion. Cantos, I believe she's an archaeologist, and she's aging backwards to the point where she's a baby. It's an interesting thing, these characters similar to this, to Alia. Um, you don't find them too often, I suppose. It's I suppose probably is it what there's a cartoon is it these days, Boss Baby or something like that. But Ali is quite well written here, I thought. I get a really fascinating character. We're nearly at the end of the book, and she's really 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 important. Um, and I thought the way that Harah was written in this chapter was a great use of a minor character by Herbert to draw, in some senses, draw the poison out of Jessica, draw the character and the wonder of Alia out of her little quiet self, if you see what I mean. Harah's a great character here, and it really facilitates and enables the other characters that one is brand new, but we've come to worry about. Jessica certainly. We could be very sympathetic with Jessica all the way if we understand what's going on in this book. She's what's this about? And as much as she's saying things like when Tharthar says we do not want this thing to happen, Jessica says we do not want it. The tribe needs all of its strength, etc. But at the same time, you back up a page or so, times have, or no, sorry, go forward, times have changed, and when she says, the Usul could not but win, that's her, and Jessica saying, that was my meaning, my son will kill him. And she's being called, the way she speaks to Harah is formal, but it's icy. Even stiffened when Harah says, I pity Chani. And it's because of how you view her, Jessica's opinion of Chani is wrong. Jessica's opinion of Harah here is wrong. And the question that we have to bring to the party, I suppose, is this. At the very beginning, we started with this this epigraph about who rules who. Control the coinage in the courts. Well, Jessica and Paul aren't doing either of those. Let the rabble have the rest. Fair enough. If you want profits, you must rule. Who are the rabble and who are the ruled? And I think in this chapter, Jessica views the Fremen as the rabble, along with anyone else within the Empire and the Five for Like system, etc. as well. And she's wrong. And it's the power of the mob, the power of the crowd, etc. The power of the people. Democracy, is the force of the Deme, isn't it? Vena says, when is the first time you knew of where this every ancestor child was written? I never really made the connection to the archive in the Dresden files, for example, which was as fun as heck. I haven't read that, Vela. I wonder if this is inspired. This inspired or something earlier. When is the first time you knew of where this every ancestor child was written? Huh. I don't know, Vela. That's a very good question. I'll tell you what. I'll scribble it down. It could well be with Frank here. We do have the pre-born, etc., and Butler's Erewhon. This is that we're all alien beings and we live in another universe, basically ethereal beings. And when it comes to be time to be born, we have to go and bug people who, a male and female parent within the physical universe and harass them enough to agree to give birth to. That's the premise of the preborn in Samuel Butler's Erewhon. Let me scribble that down. Every ancestor. Well, I think it's kind of like a collective unconsciousness, this kind of thing. I did a bit of scribbling. I think Butler's the first person to look at that. Um, if we want to call it that. If we want to make it specifically a child, then it's probably Alia here right now. Um, hmm. I don't know. You get within mythology, I suppose the likes of I suppose the person who changes and evolves over time as the different races come, takes different forms, etc., etc. There's like Twan in Irish and Talesian in Welsh, and I suppose Merlin in Arthurian mythology, and oh God, what would you call him? Tiresias, is it the blind seer in Greek mythology? Um, do you know something, Vera? If you go and have a wee look at the PhD that I wrote, there's a whole lot of people kicking off and being interested in this at the time. um, the idea of a collective unconscious, and if you look at my videos on chapter 2 of the PhD, when you get into evolution and Butler, let me see, what am I thinking on? Yeah, yeah. It's a sorry, lost my train of thought there. It's a kind of a big thing. So there's writers. I've got quotes in there by about this by George Bernard Shaw, for example. It's a thing that's going around at the time in Victorian Victorian Britain, certainly within the literati, and but as a character, I don't know. I've never seen the Dresden Files, or if they're books, I haven't read them. Um, I'm kind of aware of the name, but I've not got round to it. So, ancestor child, yeah. Iteration because it's fascinating, specific and impactful because it's a child. Yeah, this is, as you said, yes. I suppose one of our ultimate science fiction muck around tropes is auto infanticide. The ability to kill yourself as a child. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'll have a wee look. I don't know. Honestly, it's very specific, isn't it? As a child, I don't know. I'd imagine that there's probably a few AI type, machine intelligence stories, etc., that kind of thing. But it's even trying to figure out. I suppose different personalities. The idea of the collective unconsciousness is really the way it's developed within science fiction is really from Jung's ideas, archetypes of the collective unconsciousness. You'll see that lead into the work of what do you call him? Joseph Campbell and the Hero of a Thousand Faces. This kind of thing. There is a wee sort of backwards trail to this kind of thing, but as far as I know, no. Oh, hang on a minute now. Butler's the first author, I think, to treat artificial machine intelligence in terms of evolution. And I think it's 1872 for Erewhon, I think, or 1871 if I'm mistaken. I think it's 1872. I suppose a person dreaming about different personalities that they've been, this kind of thing. It seems to be. I would say it's probably it's not something that's completely alien to me, if you see what I mean. But I'm just not thinking of anything specific. But I certainly think it's a thing of fantasy. If not at least science fiction, But that's very, very oddly specific and very complicated question, Vela. But I'll have a think about it if you don't mind. Oh, here isn't there? There's a Star Child in Battlestar Galactica, isn't there? Something like that. The original, was it the third series? It's a very good episode, actually. It's a Turk Benedict special, isn't it? Curious about the cinema because it's fascinating, specific, impactful. because it's a child. Yeah. Dresden Files are not great. Okay, says Vela. But they are super fun to read. Oh, well, fun stuff to read is good. Not everything has to be great, Vela. Fun is a great prerequisite. First one is average at best. By the fourth, it's pretty good. By the end, it's just a blast. First of the popular urban fantasy series. Right, thank you. Yes, I've seen them on the bookshelf. I would sort of kind of would have thought it wouldn't have been my cup of tea. But I think, is there a TV series of it now, Vela? Is it the Dresden Files or something like that? I think 100%, and it's okay with no answer as well. I think of you as nearly all knowing in the realm of the kind of stories we ask. If you don't know, it doesn't hurt. Oh, goodness, Vera, I'm not all knowing in any shape or form whatsoever. I read a lot of stuff, but the amount of stuff that I don't know and the amount of books that I haven't read would fill an entire universe. I'm very happy to admit my ignorance. I hate being ignorant. So ignorance usually leads to knowledge. If I don't know something, I tend to try and figure it out or store it for a rainy day. I must do a wee thing over Christmas. Maybe I'll pop on and just have a wee live chat about science fiction of the year and stuff. But I must have a wee chat to you sometime about trying to. I don't know if anybody reads. Is it Bernard Cornwell's Sharp books? And the Sharp series that was on TV, and there was a very famous internet puzzle that the author put up as to regards to who was Sharp's father. And I'm not the person that got the answer right, but I believe I'm the person that forced the issue, if that makes sense. And it was a great puzzle, but it was a really bad thing by the author. If you look into it, you'll find my name in it somewhere. If you do a search on Sharp's father, Bernard Cornwell, type in Russell Sloan, you should see some of my responses. But it was about after 10 years, nobody'd figured out the problem. And I was trying to teach my son that there's no such thing as an unsolvable problem, that you don't have to know the answer to something to figure it out. You can get someone else to tell you. You can force the issue. And it was actually quite tragic and really stupid. It was like somebody got the answer kind of way back day one, 10 years prior to that. But he'd put together a set of clues that weren't complete. And by denying the correct answer at the very beginning, had kept people trying to fuck around with this problem for about 10 years, including myself. every kind of couple of years, I'd take a sheet of paper and go, right, I'll give this 7 days and see what I can do. And eventually I decided I've had enough. I want to know. But if you look into Bernard Cornwell's websites, type in week Sharp's father, he has a sort of searchable quotes and stuff and discussions. If you type in my name, you'll find you'll find my comments, which led to him shutting the quiz down. My decision was I wanted to split the universe in half with every comment I made. So the first thing I wanted to do was find out whether the character was fiction or factual. And if he was fictional, then goodbye all the factual people, if you see what I mean. It was a puzzle I loved. I actually enjoyed it. What was it? Take me out, put you in, and a small horse appears in this happy. Oh, what was it? Oh, I can't remember the last word. In this happy person, I think that was it. Yeah. Take me out, put you in, and a small horse appears in this happy person. And it's supposed to be the answer is who is Sharp's father. It's a cryptic crossword clue. If you take the U, put me in, small, SMU, and a small horse is a GG, smug, appears in this happy person as a smiler. So the answer is smuggler. And the actual, the author forgot to add the other part of the clue was that his nationality is French. So if you want to know who Sharp's father is, the answer is French smuggler. And it was a big thing on the internet for a while, and I was quite appalled by it, but I enjoyed it at the same time. The pursuit of the mystery was good fun, you know. Bela says there was a Dresden Files TV series produced by Nicolas Cage. I honestly think Nick Cage did it as a labour of love and called in favours to get it made. The series was cool too. I'll have to check it out. Nicolas Cage is excellent. I just watched what was the film? The Unbearable Greatness of Being Me or something. Is that it? His most recent film there, I think. It was very funny. Let me just see. I'll just type before I tell you the wrong name of the film. I'm sure you know the one I'm thinking of. For goodness sake. Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. There we go. Sorry, folks. That was a good laugh. I enjoyed that rightly. Well, there we go. Yeah, Cynthia saying I have to go. Thanks. So I'm going to head on myself, Cynthia, as well, and try and give my throat a wee bit of a rest. We've got some big chapters coming our way in a bit as well. Vela says, I think most Philip K. Dick fans were appalled at the adaptation of one of his stories into the movie Next. I saw that, yeah, but I loved Next for what it was. It was okay. I think there's going to be seldom be a Philip K. Dick adaptation that's that close to an original story, I suppose. But they're either hit and miss, aren't they? I think. Pardon me, Vela saying good night. So glad that I got to hang out and you're all doing well. Thank you, Vela. I said just back from the holidays. We'll see you hopefully again, folks, for chapter 42 on Thursday again. Either 9 or 10 p.m. All being well, and the fact that I can speak. And I do apologise about the very wheezy cough I've had tonight. We got there in the end. Vela saying good night. I'm so glad I got to hang out and you're doing well. Thank you, Vela. And there's Bojack Harkness saying later on. Well, listen, folks, thank you very much for joining me. We're getting there, aren't we? I apologise for the old throat. It's great this YouTube. Somebody wheezy and gaspy like me would never get on the telly. So I'll say, look after yourselves no matter where you are. It's very cold at the minute. Keep your heating on. Keep yourselves warm. Look after yourselves and your loved ones no matter where you are. Take care of yourselves. And hopefully we'll see you on Thursday. So thanks very much for joining me and all the very best. Take care and good night. Bye-bye.